to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And joining me via Skype is Leadership and Communication Strategist Dotun Ojon. Good morning, Dotun. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, Veronica. The interview caught me at the other side of town this morning.
Obviously. Sure, you're having a great time there. Anyway, Let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the blueprint. National Assembly renovation. Federal government slashes a 37 billion naira request, OK's 9.2 billion naira. International politics worsening our insecurity. Lawan says 9th Assembly will ensure local government autonomy, explains lawmakers' approval for federal government's foreign loans. And we move to the Daily Trust. Job cuts displace workers as COVID-19 hits employers. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper, COVID-19 forces states to slash 2020 budget. And to the News Direct now, multi-million naira lottery fraud. Federal government orders Sponge Nigeria to pay 0.138 billion naira to winners. Slams a 10 million naira fine on erring operators as Lagos Lotteries Board revokes license of NNB Capital. And then we move to the front page of the national economy. Nigeria's cashew sustains global demand despite pandemic shock. Buyers commend quality of product. Banks take interest in trade financing. And to the Business AM, expert pushes for naira as West Africa's reserve currency. But analysts say it's a tough nut to crack. All right, Dotun, we'll look at this story on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, talking about COVID-19 forcing states to slash their 2020 budget. I wonder how this come to you. Did you foresee this coming?
Yeah, and if you notice that I have repeatedly said that the best form of leadership that is needed at this point in time is innovative kind of leadership, because the resources that the people have had access to, I mean the governors, will not be available. Even the federal government that is jumping from one place to the other, looking for loan here and there, it will get to a point that we will not be able to do that, because obviously the only strategy that we have known over time is to put the burden of loan repayment on the people as a form of tax, and that is not going to work. Majority of people now are out of job, so how they will raise the money to pay tax will be something that we'll continue to talk about. So I have said it that nature has graciously honored us with what to use to come out of whatever recession or depression that we are dancing into. But again, if you look at our budgetary allocations over the time, I say it's the worst across the ones I've seen. I've not studied budgetary allocations across the world, but for the countries that I've seen, our own kind of budgetary system is alien to every form of economic studies, and that's what I call copy and paste economic system, whereby the project of last year we surface in the budgetary allocation for this year, and so on like that. Now, I think it's about time for especially the governors to be more realistic. I am not afraid that whatever cut down in the budget, what effect it will have, I am not afraid it's not going to have any significant effect, except if
you think so, Dotun? You think it wouldn't have any significant effect? It wouldn't have an effect on the salaries of workers, seeing that the 30,000 naira is still being pushed to be paid by some governments?
You see, the budget of last year, for example, look at the chunk of money that went into some areas. Let's ask ourselves some basic questions. Majority of the budgetary allocations you see on paper, ask them how much the project in the real sense of it really costs. This is what I'm saying. You see, the problem we have in Nigeria is not whether money is not available or maybe we are short of funds. The problem is how do we allocate this fund? For example, you want to build a 1 kilometer road, for example, and you are naming the price in billions of naira. This is really sad. This has been the practice over time. But after COVID-19 now, I'm begging people to begin to set their eye on the books of government. I think the only way it will affect us so significantly is if we still carry on with this practice of budgeting huge amount of money for small projects. That has been the practice. If you put our project, I cited an example the other day. The longest bridge in the world today is in China. It costs about $1.2 billion. But if you want to build that in Nigeria, you will know the amount of money that government will spend on it. So I think if government becomes sincere as a result of COVID-19 and they allocate reasonable amount of money to reasonable projects, I think we will not be in any issue. And areas where at a point in this nation, you will remember that we were using 25% of our national budget to meet the need of the National Assembly. And these are some of the things that we have to cut off from. I studied a state government recently, and I was afraid. And the governor kept coming out to tell people that, oh, our allocation is 5 billion, the amount of money we use to pay salary is 4 billion. And everybody just took it hook, line, and sinker. Until I asked further, I probed further, and I discovered the fact that majority of this fund, or a great chunk of this fund, goes actually into the pocket of the executive arm of government in form of payment of their salary, in form of allowances, in form of arrears, in form of security vote for the governor. And when we call them now to give account for this security vote, they say, nobody can probe security. And they are using it as an avenue to steal money. So what I'm saying in essence is that if by chance they become born again and see the need for them to allocate reasonable amount of money to reasonable project, I think we will not be in much problem. The problem we have had over time is this MMM mindset that I've talked about. More money, more money, more money. The federal government thinks it's more money. The state government thinks it's more money. How are you managing the ones that you have now? Now we are going past planting season, or the rainy season is here. Ask them how much they have invested in agriculture. And we know that there's a trouble in our hand. If you ask me where I'm seated now and why I'm here, I can tell you that one of the reasons is agric-related. Because as we speak now, every night, 1.2 billion people across the world go to bed hungry. By the year 2021, there will likely be population explosion across the globe, including Nigeria, as a result of this lockdown. Because what were people doing during the lockdown, if you ask me? Now, if there's population explosion in 2021, that means that majority of Nigerians too will join the league of those people that are going to bed hungry. What does that tell you? It tells you that we have a way that we should invest heavily in agriculture. But the revised budget now, if you see it, you will see what our people are allocating funds for. So I have said it, until we leave this traditional mindset of leadership and we embrace innovation to solve the problem of the Nigerian people, there will not be way forward. But I tell you, forget about what they are saying. Money is not the problem. It's the ability to manage the resources we have that has always been the issue.
Beyond monies, the governors are looking at cutting overhead costs and cutting down on personnel. But then the federal government has now, handed the fight against COVID-19 to states. And one is wondering, now the states have to carry on with this fight, championing the cause of this fight. How much of a burden financially would it be for them, seeing they're also cutting down on their budgets?
It will be a lot of burden, and that's why we have heard over time that a lot of state governors are actually saying, or state government are saying that COVID-19 patients will be treated in their houses. But again, that's another question that a lot of people have been asking as to the feasibility of this. Because if you look at it, how many doctors do we have? Look at the number of the nurses and all the assistants across the state. Will they be able to actually do this? So it's a huge burden on state, no doubt about that. But like I have said, there's a need for us to move away from what we are used to. You can't be doing things the familiar way and expect a fantastic result. Now, when you are talking about cut down, what is the first cut down? I said leadership is leading by example. It's not talking the talk, it's leading the way. I'm expecting from the security vote, for example, maybe we have a cut. And when I mean a cut, it's not cutting down on the security vote per se, but reallocating the security vote in a way that will benefit the people and reduce insecurity. And what is the major cause of insecurity, if you ask me? Apart from the fact that people are unable to police their environment very well, one major cause is that of unemployment. So there's a way, and that is why people don't see unemployment as part of insecurity or security. The unemployment or employment is under the security vote that governors are collecting. So when you collect the money, allocate some to it. And what do I mean by leading by example? For example, we want to see state governors cut down the number of SAs and PAs. But you know why they will not cut down? Because they want to achieve political points. But this is not a time to have 120 SAs and be paying them. No, this is not a time. Even commissioners, they must be willing to pay more. You must restrict your commissioners to stay in their state so that they will not bring per diem in dollars that will cost you your government money. So these are some of the things that we need to work on. But before you tell the people to tighten their belt, you must show them in the real sense of it that you are tightening their belt. You cannot tell the people to be reducing what they are eating, and you'll be drinking the best wine in the world. That is what leadership is all about. So it's good that we need to cut costs, but it must begin with people in authority. It must begin with our leaders. No more traveling from one point to the other because you want to collect your night allowance and all that. Once the people see that of a truth that you are actually tightening, then they will also tighten their belt. Not that you will be telling them to do what you have no capacity to do.
All right, Dotun, you have spoken about state governments looking inward, and some have said perhaps this is the time for us to begin to look at tinkering with certain things in the exclusive lists and the likes, so as we can practice the true federalism we have been talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately, our clamor for true federalism is more of resources. It's more of monetary resources than any other thing. The more reason why I think we have to, when we are clamoring for true federalism, we really need to explain what we need. In this sense, if you do not do well reasonably under this arrangement, you cannot do well reasonably, even when they start practicing true federalism. What does it entail? One of the things is that your state perhaps will have power for their police. How much are they paying their Amotekun corps that they are trying to recruit? Is that the amount of money you want to pay to police when you start recruiting and employing them? No. The reality of what we are talking is that any discussion in Nigeria today that either restructuring or true federalism that put allocation of monetary resources first will also land us in trouble. I said it now. Any idea in Nigeria that puts money first is an idea that will lead to corruption. Let us put idea first. How can we, with the current situation, the structure may be bad, but we need heads to actually correct the system. And it's not by redrawing the board. It's by putting every unit of the bad system together for a common purpose. Have we been able to do that under this faulty federalism? We have not been able to do that. So if you do not check the issue of leadership, you may check the structure, but bad leaders will still mess up the entire structure. So it is not even, okay, if we allow state now to be generating, now where do they want to see the money to generate electricity? No. The thing that are left in their hand, agriculture, how much are they investing in it? Agriculture is a good investment as we speak now because it has a huge return. As far as people are waking up and they are eating, the government will continue to benefit. But we are not doing that. We are waiting for true federalism because we need more money in our pocket. I doubt whether, without good leadership, whether that is going to work.
All right, Dotun Ojon, thank you for speaking with us. It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. Joining me via Skype is Leadership and Communication Strategist Dotun Ojon. Dotun, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica. And as you can see, I'm at the other side of town this morning.
Interesting. Well, let's head to the papers now. And I begin with the blueprint. National Assembly renovation. Federal government slashes 37 billion naira request. OK's 9.2 billion naira. International politics worsening our insecurity. Lawan. Says Night Assembly will ensure local government autonomy, explains lawmakers' approval for federal government's foreign loans. And to the front page of the Daily Trust, job cuts displace workers as COVID-19 hits employers. To the Leadership newspaper, COVID-19 forces states to slash 2020 budget. And on the front page of the News Direct, multi-million naira lottery fraud. Federal government orders Sponge Nigeria to pay 0.138 billion naira to winners, slams 10 million naira fine on erring operator as Lagos Lotteries Board revokes license of NNB Capital. And on the front page of the National Economy, Nigeria's cashew sustains global demand despite pandemic shock. Buyers commend quality of products, banks take interest in trade financing. And finally, on the front page of the Business AM, expert pushes for naira as West Africa's reserve currency, but analysts say it's a tough nut to crack. All right, we'll look at the story on the front page of the Blueprint National Assembly renovation. Dr. I'm certain that you would have followed the uproar, if I may use the word, from citizens with regards to the amount that was initially designated for the renovation, but now it has been reduced to 9.2 billion naira. And the Senate is saying that Nigerians misunderstood them.
You know, I think we should begin from the area and the definition of leadership. That will help us to understand really some of the issues that are involved in this entire thing. When you talk about leadership, leadership is about four major things. The first one of them is priority. You see, because resources will never be enough, so there's the need for leaders to always give priority to things that they think are actually the best for the moment. But if you look at it, the question you ask yourself is that I've often said, I've talked about the amount of money that goes into the service of the National Assembly. And you continue to wonder, when you are setting priority, whether the renovation of the National Assembly is a priority. Now, don't let us misunderstand this. To a person who is in the National Assembly, renovating the National Assembly is a priority. To a person that is outside the National Assembly, renovating the National Assembly is not a priority. That underscores the need to ask the question, what then is priority? And that shows that there's often, I've often said it, that there's a disconnect between the expression of leadership and the expectation of followership. Now, the followers are expecting that, no, you don't need to renovate the National Assembly because to them, it's still wonderful. But to the members there, that National Assembly is not good enough. That means that there's a disconnect as to how the leadership of the nation is actually understanding the impulse of followership. And this is really very sad. So we need to bridge the gap so that leadership and followership can be thinking towards the same direction. Now, that is the problem I see there. So it's not whether it's 29 billion or whether it's 27 billion.
If I may interrupt your line of thought, how do we bridge the gap moving forward?
Now, you bridge the gap by letting followership to understand how you reason. Now, we can cite the example of COVID-19, for example. You see that the government is saying that COVID-19 is real. And the people are saying that COVID-19 is not real. That shows that the followership is not understanding the impulse of leadership, which is very, very important. How do you bridge it? You bridge it by first building trust. Let them understand that, you see, the art of leadership is most of the times your followers don't see what you are saying. The art of leadership is to bring their view and vision up for them to see and reason the way you are reasoning. People are living in poverty. Where I am presently now, where I'm talking to you now, if you ask anybody, they will not see the reason why National Assembly should be renovated. But government must take the message of hope down to the people to the point that they will believe. Nigerian populace does not believe its government. And it's quite unfortunate. It's affecting every sector. That's why when you say COVID-19 is real, they are thinking you are lying. That is it. Bridging it is a function of believability. And we must continue to build it in the kind of project we execute, in the kind of policies we execute as a people, in the kind of program that we execute. Not that you will tie a road to my community, that everybody knows the kilometer. Everybody should be able to calculate how much it will cost. And you bring them, and at the end of the year, when you are giving your scorecard, you call 1 million that they cannot understand. So this is the problem. And I think National Assembly also should try as much as possible being the closest to the people. You see, what differentiates a military administration, that is the military administration that we have been used to over time, from a democratic dispensation, is actually the National Assembly. Because in the military era, there was an executive arm. In the military era, the judiciary is there. But in the military era, the legislative arm is absent. That shows that what makes democracy democratic is actually not just about voting for the executive, it's about the National Assembly. So they must be able, they are closer to the people, they are the closest to the people. They must be able to set government policies in a way that will not affect government. This is what we are talking about. But because they think that they don't have a role to play, they just do things the way they like. I think this is unfortunate and is unacceptable.
All right. One thing that this issue has brought to light, according to some, is how important the office of the citizen is. And a lot of Nigerians do not seem to have understood that, but seem to be getting into an understanding of how important that office is. How do we build on this to entrench democracy?
Now, we have to actually continue to build on it from here in form of orientation. Everyone that has the opportunity to have a voice in the community must begin to spell it out. You see, people still misunderstand governance to start on the day of swearing in. And I often say it, we must let our people know that governance starts on the day they cast their ballot. So when we continue to orientate the people, when we continue to tell them the kind of power they have, so when they are going to vote, they ask basic questions as to how are you going to, in a clear time, forget about promises. We have had enough of that. In a clear time, how do you want to take us from where we are now to where we are supposed to be? And this lies solely in the heads of people that are major stakeholders in the system that are not necessarily too partisan. Because what I've noticed over time is that partisan politics has been able to divide us more than democratic democracy has been able to unite us. So we must move away from bitter partisan politics to try to educate, because whatever we do right today has effect on the future. And whatever we fail to do right also has effect on the future. So community leaders who really desire a better Nigeria must come out to continue to educate the citizenry. That, see, it starts from the day you cast your ballot, and your power is in your vote. And it moves to that, to also monitoring the process of governance. It's been you just casting your ballot and moving away. You must be able to monitor the entire process of governance. So I think every one person in Nigeria, unfortunately, a lot of people, because of the mindset we've had in time past that politics is not for the good one, politics is bad, politics is this, a lot of people have moved away from politics. But beyond even belonging to a political party, you must be able to educate your community to understand the kind of power they have. If not for the citizenry, they will have gone ahead with the renovation with that kind of amount of money in this hard time. So this is pure leadership. Leadership is about priority. Leadership is about purpose. Leadership is about the people. Leadership is about the priority. So when a government wants to, about their prosperity, I mean to say, so when a government wants to embark on any project, maybe renovation or establishment of a new one, the first question that government will ask is, how can it affect the people? How can it translate to the prosperity of the people? So that's the question I want everybody to ask. Renovation of the National Assembly, fantastic idea, because I don't want my legislators to be making law in a dilapidated view.
Doctor, quickly before we let you go, I'd like for you to touch on accountability. How can the citizens take this a step further to ensure accountability from those that they have elected into office?
You see, I think deliberately, I don't know whether it's deliberately or maybe it's just a coincidence. I think government has made accountability a little bit very difficult for the people to monitor. For example, when I was growing up, when you see a project, maybe the building of a primary school or a road, you will see the project board. They will put a board there, and they will say this project is whether from the federal government. They will put the name of the contractor. They will put the amount of money that the project is supposed to go. So when you are passing there, all these things are in public glare. So people can actually monitor, they can decipher from the beginning whether this amount of money, whether the project is up to it. But what do you see now? Hardly will you see a project board with even the name of the contractor. What you see now is they just put a project board because federal government project, state government wants to take glory for it. State government agency of federal government project, another agency wants to take glory from it. So you don't even get to see the board. But we must begin by asking the relevant question, and that falls again on the community leaders, the opinion mothers in the community. On behalf of our people, we must continue to ask questions so that at least we can have an accountable government to the benefit of the masses.
Dotun Ojon, thank you so much for speaking with us.